Some mysteries chill you to the bone, not just because they're unexplained, but because of the sheer terror they leave behind. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre and unsettling true stories of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass incident. Was it nature's wrath, a military experiment gone wrong, or something beyond our comprehension? It all began in February 1959. A group of 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, set out on a challenging trek through the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. These were no amateurs. The group was highly skilled and well prepared for the journey. But what started as an adventure into the wilderness turned into a nightmare. The hikers set off on January 27th, planning to return by February 12th. When they failed to arrive home, a search party was dispatched. What they found shocked even the most seasoned rescuers. On February 26th, searchers discovered the group's campsite. The tent was torn open, but not from the outside. It had been slashed open from within, as though the hikers were desperate to escape something. Outside the tent, footprints some barefoot despite the sub-zero temperatures led into the nearby forest. About a mile away under a cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies. The hikers were wearing only their underwear. It was as if they'd fled the tent in a hurry, completely unprepared for the freezing conditions. As rescuers continued their search, more bodies were found over the next 2 months, scattered across the snowy landscape. But here's where the story gets even stranger. One hiker had a fractured skull. 2 others had broken ribs so severe that the force needed to cause the injuries was likened to a car crash. And yet, there were no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises. One victim was missing her tongue. But that's not all. Traces of radiation were found on some of the hikers' clothing. This left investigators baffled. What could have caused such violent injuries while leaving no external marks? And why the radiation? At the time, Soviet authorities quickly closed the case, stating the cause of death was a compelling natural force. But that vague explanation only fueled speculation. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed. An avalanche? Some believe the hikers were startled by a sudden avalanche and fled their tent in panic. But no evidence of an avalanche was ever found at the site. Military testing? The Ural Mountains were known for secret Soviet military experiments. Could the hikers have stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see? A UFO encounter? Yes. Even extraterrestrial involvement has been suggested, fueled by reports of strange orange lights seen in the sky around the time of the incident. Despite numerous investigations, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. In 2020, Russian authorities revisited the case and concluded that an avalanche was the most likely explanation. But many experts and amateur sleuths remain unconvinced. What makes this case so haunting is not just the mystery, but the human element. These were 9 young people with their whole lives ahead of them. Whatever happened that night, it's clear they faced something so terrifying, so powerful, that even their experience and training couldn't save them. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the greatest mysteries of our time. Was it nature, man, or something out of this world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
The fractal light. My sister had always been drawn to history, but I never thought her passion would lead her to a 1,000-year-old house in England. Nestled within the rolling hills of the Cotswolds, it stood like a sentinel of time, brimming with tales of yesteryears. When she first told me about her peculiar experiences in the house, I laughed it off, sure that the isolation had gotten to her. It's haunted, she insisted one evening, her eyes alight with both excitement and fear. Things move when I am not looking. Items disappear, only to turn up later in odd places. And once, I swear, I heard whispers. I chuckled nervously, convinced that the overwhelming charm of the old home was playing tricks on her mind. But it was my visit one crisp autumn afternoon that changed everything. The air was thick with a sense of something unexplainable as I arrived with my 2 teenage daughters in tow. My sister seemed more on edge than usual, her fingers nervously tracing the ornate carvings of the wooden staircase. Tired from the journey, I settled onto a faded, flower-patterned couch, while my daughters explored nearby. "It's here," my sister whispered suddenly, startling me from my reverie. The tension in her voice made every hair on my body stand on end. I scanned the room, but aside from the flickering candlelight, I saw nothing out of the ordinary. "What do you mean, it's here?" I asked, skepticism battling curiosity. Before I could voice my doubts, my sister beckoned me and my daughters closer to the foot of the staircase. Confusion washed over me as I followed, clutching my daughter's hands tightly. My sister's eyes were wide with wonder, and I felt a strange charge in the air that I couldn't explain. Then, we saw it. Hovering just a few feet above the landing, a ball of fractal-looking light pulsated gently, resembling an ethereal, luminescent bubble about the size of a soccer ball. Colors swirled within it, shifting from vibrant blues to deep purples, reminiscent of fading twilight. Time suspended itself as we stood transfixed at the bottom of the stairs. The light seemed sentient, gliding effortlessly down the staircase and through the gaps between us, a cool breeze trailing behind it. My dog, Ella, was the first to react. Her hackles rose, a low growl emanating from her throat as she fixated on the luminous sphere, effectively grounding me in reality. I felt an inexplicable chill skitter down my spine as the light sailed past, brushing against my skin like a whisper. As it floated into the living room and disappeared, a simple instinct took over. I rushed to grab some pens and paper from the table, urgency pushing me forward. "Everyone, stop talking. Write down what you just saw," I instructed, my voice barely a whisper. The gravity of the situation settled heavily around us. Side by side, we scribbled furiously, each captured in our own thoughts yet bonded by that singular experience. My sister wrote about the feeling of warmth that radiated from the light, while one of my daughters noted the surprising calm that washed over her as it floated past. They all agreed on the colors, the way it glimmered in an almost magical dance. When we finished, we laid our papers down beside us, heartbeats quickening as we compared what we had witnessed. It was then that an overwhelming sense of unity enveloped us. Each description mirrored the others. We had all witnessed the same mesmerizing phenomenon, a supernatural ballet weaving itself into our reality. The moment was fleeting, yet it felt monumental. The blurred line between the known and the supernatural had been crossed, forever etching that vivid moment into our memories. We discussed what it might mean, if it was a spirit or simply a trick of light, but deep down, we understood that whatever it was, it had left an indelible mark on our hearts. As evening fell, shadows began to stretch across the walls of my sister's ancient home, and the stories of the past came alive once more, dancing alongside us in the glow of candlelight. The house felt transformed, magical in its mystery, not just a home filled with history but a living testament to the inexplicable wonders of life beyond sight. Later that night, as my daughters drifted off to sleep, I gazed out of the window at the stars twinkling overhead. I couldn't shake the feeling that the ball of light, our captivating visitor, was merely waiting in the shadows for its next opportunity, to weave another story, to draw in curious hearts, to remind us that sometimes, reality is only the beginning of a much larger tale. Whispering shadows. The old house at the end of Maple Street had always held a certain charm, with its weathered shingles and sprawling garden, but it was the stories that surrounded it that truly captivated those who passed by. Built in 1953, the house had seen generations come and go, yet it was the whispers of its past that lingered in the air like the scent of blooming flowers in spring. For years, Mark had lived there with his wife, Sarah, and her daughter, Lily. They had moved in, enchanted by the house's character and the promise of a fresh start. Little did they know, they were not alone. It started subtly. At first, it was just a feeling, a soft brush against the back of Mark's neck when he was alone in the living room, or the faint sound of laughter echoing through the halls when the house was quiet. Sarah and Lily, both sensitive to the unseen, claimed they could sense the presence of two spirits, an old lady and an old man. They described the woman as a gentle soul, a gardener in life, who adored the plants they nurtured. The old man, they said, was more reserved but equally benign. One sunny afternoon, while tending to the vibrant flowers in the front yard, a neighbor strolled by. She paused, a look of recognition washing over her face. "Oh my gosh, I haven't been by in forever," she exclaimed, peering through the window into their cozy dining room. "I remember the old lady who used to live here. She always had flowers out front and a bunch of plants inside." Her gaze shifted to Mark. "Just like you guys do." Mark chuckled, but a chill danced along his spine. He had heard the stories, but experiencing it through the eyes of someone who remembered the previous occupant was different. A sense of comfort washed over him, as if the old lady was watching over them, approving of their care for her beloved garden. However, the spirit's playful nature soon revealed itself. Mark often found himself the target of their mischief. One day, he set down his cooler on the kitchen counter, intending to wash it out. He turned his back to turn on the hose, and when he looked back, there it was, his dog's toy, inexplicably placed inside the cooler. He shook his head, chuckling to himself. "Must be the ghosts," he muttered, half joking. The lights began to flicker, sometimes turning on and off in a rhythmic dance that seemed to tease him. But the most bizarre incident occurred one morning when Mark, in a hurry, tossed a block of moldy cheese into the trash. After a long day at work, he returned home, exhausted but relieved to be back in the warmth of his home. As he opened the fridge to grab a drink, his heart sank. There, sitting innocently on the shelf, was the very cheese he had thrown away that morning. "Sarah," he called out, incredulous. "Did you take the cheese out of the trash and put it back in the fridge?" She appeared from the living room, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Why the fuck would I take moldy cheese out of the trash and put it back in the fridge?" she replied, her voice a mix of disbelief and amusement. Mark could only laugh, though a part of him felt a shiver of unease. The old lady's spirit was certainly playful, perhaps even mischievous. He wondered if the old man was just as involved in these antics, watching from the shadows with a knowing smile. As the weeks turned into months, Mark, Sarah, and Lily embraced the quirks of their spectral companions. They began to leave small offerings for the spirits, a bouquet of fresh flowers on the dining table, a piece of cake left out on the counter, and even a cozy blanket draped over the old rocking chair in the corner of the living room. The house felt alive, filled with laughter and warmth, as if the spirits had woven themselves into the fabric of their daily lives. Mark found himself speaking to them, sharing his thoughts and worries, and in return, he felt their presence grow stronger, more comforting. One night, as the family gathered for a movie, the lights flickered once more, and the temperature in the room dropped slightly. Mark glanced around, half expecting to see the old lady's gentle smile or the old monk's watchful gaze. Instead, he felt a soft breeze caress his cheek, and he couldn't help but smile. "Thank you for being here with us," he whispered, feeling a profound sense of connection. In that moment, he knew that the old lady and old man were not just ghosts lingering in the shadows. They were guardians of the home, protectors of the joy and love that filled its walls. And as long as they remained, the house would continue to thrive, a sanctuary for the living and the spirits alike, bound together by the whispers of the past and the laughter of the present.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.